Robert Louis, the North Queensland halfback who pleaded guilty to assaulting his pregnant girlfriend, has been dealt a one-year ban in an emphatic statement by the NRL. But with harsher penalties to players who test positive for illegal substances, the question now is whether the one-year ban is enough, or has it set a subpar precedent on how the NRL will respond to cases of domestic violence.
No, it should be kicked out altogether.
More than 12 months isn't enough. Don't hit women. No.
It's not fixing the problem. It's just not acceptable.
The Australian Rugby League Commission launched the investigation following scrutiny around a Brisbane-based petition that amassed over 20,000 signatures last month. The petition came after Louis' girlfriend Talia Barco described in court how the 22-year-old repeatedly kicked her while she covered her pregnant stomach.
You asked me a question, would I like someone who punched my daughter? No, I'd get around there and make sure that relationship ended, take him out. No excuse. Just as bad as alcoholism or drug addiction.
CEO David Gallop said on Wednesday that the one-year ban is the appropriate judgment for the club and family, and has called for others to follow Rugby League's lead in sending a strong anti-violence message to the community.
Today was about sending a clear message about what the game stands for. First thing I hope is that he and his partner and child get their life back on track and understand that they've committed to counselling and are in that process right now. But he must know that the game won't tolerate this sort of behaviour. We are at the forefront of campaigns in relation to domestic violence, and we take seriously our position in the community to send the right message in relation to that.
But Dr Deborah Walsh, a domestic violence specialist at the University of Queensland, is concerned the minimal penalty undermines the NRL zero tolerance policy and may send a contradictory message.
NRL have a great responsibility to the community to send very clear messages, which I don't think in this case that they're doing. It's giving a message to the community that violence against women in intimate relationships gets a minimal penalty and there's no long-term consequences. I worry that crimes against women are treated very differently in any arena, but if the NRL are sending a message that it's not as bad, then I'm worried.
Sharks fullback Isaac Gordon also pleaded guilty to assaulting his pregnant girlfriend this year, but being a less severe offence than Louis, he will miss just 9 rounds of the NRL competition. Dr Walsh said this sets a concerningly low precedent for domestic violence in the NRL compared to harsher penalties in other sports.
When you compare that to things like Nick Darcy, the butterfly swimmer, he assaulted Simon Cowley in a public place. It was a horrific violence. He was dropped from the team. He was charged and then he was dropped. There were absolute consequences for his violence. But what the NRL are saying in this instance, in my view, if it's to a partner, it's not as bad. And I don't think we should be sending that message to the community. I don't think we should be sending that message to our kids. And I have a young boy that plays footy, loves the NRL. We've had numerous conversations about the message that this is giving to him and a message that I don't want him to receive.
But Gallop believes the NRL's campaigns against domestic violence will be enough to enforce the right message, having been a founding member of the White Ribbon campaign and with ambassadors such as David Peachey in the Tackling Violence program. Peachey, a former representative fullback, said while he's not sure if 1 year is enough for Robert Louis, the program will fully support the NRL's lead on the issue.
They've made that decision with Robert, and it's something now that they've got to stand by and commit to. And the stance that they've taken hopefully is strong enough, and that's something that we'll follow.
Peachey said Rugby League has a unique opportunity to reach numerous communities about domestic violence, and what's important now is that the NRL stands strong behind their decision and puts their full support behind programs like Tackling Violence.
Where we feel as though we're privileged is to be able to have that profile to go in those communities and talk about domestic violence, which has been not very much spoken about. Rugby League being the vehicle that we use at grassroots level, and the NRL, who a lot of us look up to, obviously need to make that stance and pretty much jump on the same bandwagon.
Louis was dealt a 2-year good behaviour bond and fined $2,000 by the courts last month and will undergo counselling for the remainder of 2012. The Cowboys admitted they expect another strong community reaction when Louis returns to the field next March, and after speaking to members of the Brisbane community, it's exactly what they'll get.
No.
He's got a problem, but it's not the NRL's responsibility to fix it.
I don't know, it's hard. I don't think what you do off the field should impact what you do on the field.
But the second time, the third time, I feel sorry for his other half. She should have left him. Stupid.